I can't even see where your hands are at. You're not giving me any kind of input, man.
There was a countdown. There's a number that counts us down.
Yeah, but every single time you're off, I'm always on, of course. You're always off. So how am I supposed to? I can't go by the number.
All right,
Welcome back, everyone.
we'll get
Welcome
it at
back,
the end.
everyone.
We'll get it at the end.
Hopefully, welcome back, everyone. We enjoyed the programming series so much and do plan to return to it, but we want to take a quick detour and talk to you all about recovery modalities. Can look really fancy, can look really simple, right? I mean, someone that goes to get a massage or does like some kind of manual therapy or e-stim or dry needling could be really intricate. Could be as simple as sleeping in if you have the luxury to do so.
Yep.
Could be some saunas or heating pads or ice baths. Could look any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, foam rolling, stretching. What else do people come to me and ask about? God, there's like 100 things. Sleep is a big one. We've talked about like the sleep tracker things too, and people asking about that kind of stuff. I think it comes down to if you believe in recovery. We could talk about that too, because some of the people. Let me pull up my awesome videos that I love to watch all the time of the Ultimate Warrior talking about recovery, and he's like, "Recovery's not a thing. Nobody cares."
Yeah, I'll say if we were more organized, we might have had a list. We might have listed these in a particular order.
No,
But
we don't need to read that. I mean, come on. This is it. You know, this is. I would say if we would. One thing I have gotten conversations and I've had questions about saunas and when to use them and how to use them, or like doing contrast therapy and using those both things, like going from a sauna to a cold plunge or a cold plunge to a sauna and that kind of stuff. And I think if you have the money and you care about that stuff a lot, then
before
it
we
all
get
has
into
value.
the modalities, let's start with, like you said, is recovery needed?
Yeah,
What does recovery look like? Do you want to kick us off with that?
man. Yeah, I can try. I'm somebody that's not recovery's not that important to me. Sorry to, to burst anybody's bubble or all these practitioners that do that for a living, but I think there's some things like some things just make you feel better, and that might be what recovery is for you. You know, if you just need to feel better for yourself mentally, and then that like has an effect on you physically, um, then yeah, go for it. And that's kind of like the be activated stuff that we talked about a little bit before. Like if it's something that's going to actively like make you like think that everything's better, even if it's a placebo. Like I don't know, like if it's foam rolling, if it's stretching, if it's something that you like to do, if you feel better after doing it, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, you know what, I actually feel more recovered, then I would say that's the next step, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I think like you could get lost in all that shit, and there's 100 ways to do recovery, and you can see it all over social media and TikTok and Instagram and those kind of things, and they'll show you this is the one way you need to recover from your workouts, and it's like, okay, well, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Like
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So for those that are listening and very unfamiliar, recovery is just simply put times of either very low intensity activity or no activity. So recovery could even look like taking a very light walk, right? If you, let's say, have 6 days of really intense hypertrophy work and you're just really sore and achy, it could just work out that your seventh day is a 30-minute leisurely walk. That it could be that. Like you said, it could be a matter of just getting sleep. It's any kind of activity that doesn't tax the body. And this is the whole point of this podcast. We're kind of in different camps. So I know a ton of people that are like you in that recovery is kind of a secondary thing. We'll get there when we need it, but for the most part, stay the course, stay the
Yeah.
plan, train hard. And I got nothing but appreciation for that path. I'm, again, more the side of kind of minimal effective dose in that I believe stress comes from working out for sure. Could come from social life or lack of one. That's also stressful.
Yeah.
Could be from work. Could be from any number of sources. And that stress kind of takes away your energy. I mean, no one's going to feel like going to do a workout after they get done with a 12-hour shift. They just simply won't. Um, so maybe it is time for recovery day. It all taxes the body.
Yeah.
Taxes it in different ways, albeit, but it still taxes the body. So I'm very pro recovery day, but I think it has to be earned. That's the whole point of recovery, right? I mean, you're recovering from something. So, like, what, as the coach, I think the conversation becomes, well, what are we feeling taxed by and how much can we
Yeah.
control that? Is it the workout? Great, we're feeling taxed from it. That's because we're at the most intense part of this block. I'm okay with that. Feel
Mm.
taxed. We'll recover soon. But if it's just social things, then it's like, then we need to kind of reorient what's happening in the weight room to accommodate some of that because you're not putting out, you're not performing, you're not showing up like you normally do. So again, all that to say, I'm a big fan of recovery days and could look any way, shape, or form. If you want to dive in with saunas first, we can definitely do that.
Sure.
So that's kind of where you were leaning in first. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to kind of
No,
start
no,
by
I
pointing
like
out you
that.
and I are
I
different.
almost, yeah. I also believe too, people don't trade hard enough to deserve recovery. Like I
True.
think a lot of people are not training, and they think that, like you said, they think it's the stimulus from training, but it's probably a couple other things. It's probably like their work life balance or relationships, or they're not sleeping, or they're not eating enough to recover from like a workout. You know, those kind of things all play important
Underfeeding.
factors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those things, like when you get to the top levels, I think recovery is a lot more important. And that's why you see all these big glamorous things at big schools, Alabama, Ohio State, Olympic training centers, where they have all these different modalities and all these different things that they offer all these athletes. But it's because a lot of them are doing all the things necessary to have that recovery in place and have those things available for them because they're doing the things that they're forced to do through that a training center, through the school, whatever. You know what I mean?
It's warranted. The recovery is warranted because they're
Yeah.
at that level. I think it was a couple episodes. I've said it before. Athletes, their whole vehicle to success is their body, is their performance. That only happens if you look after that vehicle, and that's the whole point of recovery. So yeah, to your point, when you're talking about these big companies that want their name on the front line, want to be the champions, the leaders, yeah, you're gonna put money into the recovery modalities to get your athletes there. Um, so saunas. How you feeling about saunas?
Yeah, saunas. I think it's. I don't know. I don't even know if I would really call that like a recovery modality, though. You know, like I think it's. I think it's almost like a detox thing, and it helps you sweat. And I think that some people need that more than others. I don't know if that really. I don't know that many people that feel like amazing afterwards or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like, man, I just lost like 3 pounds in the sauna for sitting in there for like 20 minutes when it's like X amount of degrees. And I don't know if that's like the goal. Is the goal just to like lose water weight, or is what's I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I say this with no research in front of me. I know some
Yeah.
people are all about it and all about the science of it and releases. I've heard the buzzword heat shock proteins. I think I'm not
Okay.
referencing any of that here. This is none
Yeah.
of what I'm about to share. Is that, in my opinion, before a workout, I like it. You're getting your body temperature up. You can stretch static in there, if you want. I have nothing against it as a way to warm up. And again, not talking about warming up for max strength days here, but as a very light and quick way to just raise the body temperature and get prepared for a workout. Nothing against it there. I enjoy them after the fact. Again, after we just do all this damage to the tissue, to sit down in a room where, again, like you said, we're sweating it out, kind of getting the blood flowing a little bit. I got nothing against it there. I personally enjoyed that. But I think it serves a really good purpose on the front end of the day. They're huge in the combat sport space because, like you said, that's where we sweat out our water weight. It's a very energy efficient way of pulling water out of the
Yeah.
body. So I mean it's pretty efficient for that. But to your point, if you got one and you want to use it, by all means, go for it. I don't think that and I don't want to say this across the entire episode, but I feel like it could apply. It will not make or break your training. It's just a way to, again, I would consider it recovery.
Yeah. It is interesting. Like I've I've done a hot yoga class. I did one time with Ash, and it was in the middle of probably March or something like this. It was still cold outside, and I I also think it's a huge stressor as well. And I don't think people think of it that way. But like anything you do like that is a
Talking
stress on the
about
body.
yoga or heat or the combination.
I think both. I think like any of them, right? So I don't do yoga. I also don't do saunas very often. Both of those are different stresses on the body that can leave you in different ways. You know, your body will react to different things differently, right? But for me, I think both of those things together, like I was so destroyed. I was like fatigued, like super fatigued. And then I had to go outside and I had to like coach the next day or something. And I straight up got sick. And I don't know if that was like just for me, like being soft and like having this new stress that I'm trying to do and try that out and then try to do the rest of my training and everything. So I don't know. I think it's for me. It wasn't what I wanted from it, and because it was like legit a workout. It wasn't um, like oh, it's like a training modality, like a recovery modality. It was actually a workout, and I sweated more than I've sweated in. Am I saying that right? I sweated. Is sweated a word?
Sweat. I sweat.
There you go. Either way, I lost like 5 pounds in that session, and it's like I don't ever sweat like that, and then it just destroyed me for like the rest of that week. But
Yeah. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. I mean, to your point, yoga certainly is its own modality. That's like someone saying, I went into the weight room, by no means did I recover. And you and I both know, well, what did the workout that you do look like, right? Was it a very
yeah,
light circuit that's kind of mostly body weight and light weights and, pretty brief? And they say, no, I did, 8 sets of three. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, that was not a recovery kind of workout at all. I wouldn't expect you to feel recovered from it. So to go to a hot yoga class is like,
that's a good
unless
point.
unless you're an avid yogi, I wouldn't expect you to feel recovered by that. You know what I mean?
No.
But on to the next modality. Yoga is, for a lot of people, a good way to
Yeah.
kind of wind down and recover. And I get it. If we think about the pacing of yoga, it's all about listening to internal cues. How do you feel? Where do you feel the stretch? It's about taking your time. Nothing in yoga is rushed. I mean, again, this is coming from a non-yogi. You could argue in certain kinds of yoga things are more fast-paced, whatever. But for the most part, you're slowed down. You're listening to what's happening in your body. You're feeling it in specific areas. I mean, I think it helps people to be very in tune with what's going on, which
Yeah.
is what recovery is all about. You're going to discover this is tighter than I realized it was, or my range of motion here is more limited than it was. So, do I consider that a recovery modality? For the most part,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say yes, I do.
I've worked with a lot of different teams that really appreciated using yoga um, as a recovery modality, or like even having somebody come in, like at a couple of the places I've been for football teams and for basketball teams and other places, because their coaches hold it to a high regard and they think it's something to them that's like okay, like just the idea of yoga, I think, is something that like people are like recovery. People think of recovery and
Yeah.
they think of stretching and they think of mobility, and especially with like a football team or even a basketball team, like that's kind of lost and it's not something that's really worked on very often unless it's like something that's super hyper focused. Or as a strength coach, I try to find those things that we're missing, but to them, it's like just doing it, even if it's like doing nothing but like belly breathing for 30 minutes, that will have a recovery effect for that group and that population you're working with to an extent. So I don't know. I thought out of everything that we've tried and messed around with through physical therapy, athletic training, strength conditioning, a lot of teams really buy into yoga. So it ends up working a little bit and I don't know. It's a weird one, but if they buy in, what are you going to do?
100%, 100% agree. Breath work is also an interesting recovery modality.
Yeah.
I, where we used to work, we heard this a lot. I'll be the first to point the thumb. I'll be the first to point the thumb. Um, Breath work is something that I know very little about, but I've seen a couple of exercises, done a couple of exercises, and know that I, certainly feel it when I run through them. And I think there is a lot of power to getting control of your breath and focusing on certain breathing techniques and patterns. Again, right up there, that's a recovery modality.
Yeah,
Very
you're talking about
kind of,
like PRI, like the postural restoral, whatever it's called, PRI. I know some people got really into that, and like how you have to breathe to like focus on this and that, and how to feel when you're doing certain things when you're breathing through your belly or whatever.
I wasn't so much talking about their school of thought, just in general, more breath work. But
Sure.
again, that's, yeah, and that's another, big name out in the field of people that do a lot of work with recovery and
Yeah.
performance. How do you feel about ice baths?
Mm. Now I've changed my opinion on this. Like when I was playing and back in high school and college and things, I just always thought that that was like the the mecca. Like, man, you just had a really hard day, really hard workout, whatever. Like you need to go do an ice bath. And I've changed my opinion like drastically on that. I don't think anybody really needs an ice bath because I think it's like we talked about earlier. I think it's a stress on the body. I think it's more than on the body. I think it's a stress on the nervous system, and the nervous system is not ready for like this amount of intense shock that you're about to put it through. And I listened to somebody else talk about this, and what they said, and I kind of like this is if you're going to do a cold shower or cold ice bath or whatever, I think the best way to go about it is kind of um, auto regulate it in a way that if you take a shower and you have it really cold and your body reacts very quickly and negatively to it, then the stress is probably too much for that day. And I would probably just not do it. But if you have another day where you do it and it doesn't feel as bad, like obviously there's layers to this, right? Because every time you get into an ice bath, for me, it was terrible. And it's hard to like tell which one is better than the other if unless you're doing it consistently. So I would say it's one of those things that's going to take some time. And if it's something that you really like doing and you're invested in, then I would say go ahead and try this and try to auto regulate this to a point of like some days you're going to be more fatigued and stressed and your body's going to react differently. So you can kind of play around with that and how long you should do it and if you should even do it that day. But for most people, I would say I don't think there's a reason to do it, especially after a workout, because the workout is you're breaking down muscle. You're trying to break it down to build it back up. If you pause all of the hormones and all the breakdown with just freezing everything, I think it just delays all of the buildup and the restructuring that you're trying to do.
100% agree. I know people that love them and swear by them. And if you have one and enjoy them, go for it. Nothing against it.
Yeah,
I think if you're in pain, sure, go
yeah,
for it. Like if you just get done with a practice and you're just feeling wrecked, go for it. It'll definitely calm that down. But to your point, we're going to constrict the blood vessels, so we're not going to get fresh blood to the muscle that needs repaired.
hmm
We're, we're slowing down the repair process. Not beneficial. Um, it's just, yeah, nothing about it. Nothing about it appeals. I'm not a fan. Not a fan like before or after. I do appreciate the idea of kind of giving yourself that mental challenge. I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna do it.
yeah,
I get that. I get that. I think there's so many other things that you could make a mental challenge and task, right? Like I have this salad with grilled chicken, or I have this burger in front of me. I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna go for the salad. There's a mental win, right?
yeah,
There's make your picks in areas that aren't freezing you. But
yes.
again, if you love them, have at it. Have at it. Soft tissue work, foam rolling. How you feel about soft tissue work?
I will
Uh
do it.
oh. Uh
Um,
oh.
I think I don't think I would never say no, like you shouldn't do it. Um, I just think it's a time thing because if I have a certain amount of time with somebody, it's not going to be on the top of my priority list to get some foam rolling in because it's more of like a feel thing. I don't think there's a lot of actual change that it elicits, but it makes you feel good and like temporarily, like you might have some range of motion that's different or flexibility or that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's like the end all be all. I definitely don't think it's going to do much after a workout or after training. Maybe the day after, and doing some stuff like if that's like your recovery modality and like you're super sore, I think that's a nice way to kind of ease back into whatever you're doing. Like, man, I feel like crap. Maybe let's do some foam rolling and start to ease my way back into this versus just like jumping right back in. I really like weighted rolling and temper rolling. Have you heard of this? Tempered rolling by Donnie Thompson, the Fat Caterpillar. What's his name? Strong Caterpillar, something. I butchered his name, but he created this, and Rogue has partnered with him, and they sell them. And I have one, and it's basically like a 50-pound roller, and so
I have
it's
seen these.
yeah, it's like weighted rolling. So like there is more tissue change because like it's forcing that
Is
to
there,
happen.
Luke? Is
I
there,
don't know.
Luke?
That's what
There
I
it
think.
is. There it is.
To me, maybe it is, and that's why I like in my brain, I'm like, I need to do this. This is great because it hurts and it makes me feel better afterwards, or whatever, right? Like I think it's the same. I keep going back to be activated because be activated or RPR, like either one of those, it's the same thing where you kind of push around, you're finding tension, you're like, wow, that really feels uncomfortable, like almost like super painful, and then you get out of it and you actually do feel better. And like I have felt like different changes and things, but again, it's not something that's like the end all be all. It's not something that like always lasts forever either. And it kind of helps me like change my mindset and help my breathing a little bit, but like again, not something I'm holding my hat on. But again, so soft tissue, rolling, I don't know, like is massage in there as well? Would you talk about massage?
Yeah, I would count that, I guess, in soft tissue for sure. I want to, for those listening that might be raising a brow at my comment, I'm poking at you because I think there's a big difference between I feel something, I feel better after
And it actually
this
is doing something, yeah.
versus it eliciting an actual physiological change in the body. Because I've known many people that say, this feels tight, so I need to roll it. To which, I mean, the logical jump would be rolling it, they might think, is
Yeah.
lengthening it or making it less tight.
Yeah.
And the amount of pressure needed to actually loosen or stretch a muscle is, if you're not getting that on a roller, you're just not getting that on a roller. Like that's, I mean, when we've heard the horror stories about the muscle that snaps and rolls up, right? Like you snap your quad and it, rolls up your leg or whatever, and the surgeon has to go in it. And I mean, the amount of work to
Man.
lengthen that muscle back out, and even then, tough time doing it, getting all the way back to its original position
Yep.
anatomically. So if you think hopping on again, this is kind of to people listening, and why I jabbed you earlier. If you think that hopping on a roller and rolling out your glute for 5 minutes is lengthening it and making it now taffy for you to go work out, and now you're just all loosened up, that's not what's happening on a roller. You may feel better. I don't doubt that. Absolutely, I'm all for it. But physiologically, if you think that rolling is changing your anatomy, I just want to be very clear. That's not what's happening when you hop on a
Mm.
roller. Um,
That's a good. I mean, shoot, that's like because that's the biggest thing with all the modalities. I mean, especially rolling is like it's one of those things where people love it or people hate it, and for that reason. And I just think if you like it and we have time for it, if you want to show up like 5 minutes early, because I'm probably not going to put it in my workout, but if you have time for it, like yes, let's do it.
mhm.
Or maybe we've got like 5 minutes at the start as we're like briefing the day or whatever, talking about like what the workout's going to be. I'm okay with doing that kind of stuff and having people feel better like at the start of their workout because if they
Absolutely.
already have that like in their that helps them set their mind and set their body for the workout, then yeah, I got nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. If it, I say that it may make you feel less tight, or the muscle may feel less tense. I acknowledge that. Acknowledge that
Yeah.
all day long. But yeah, I think people just kind of get things. Words are important. Little things lead to big things, right? So it's like I harp on those a lot. But yeah, soft tissue work. If you're going to go in and get a massage or have a PT that does like manual therapy, that's, I mean, phenomenal. It's great. Feels great. Leaves you feeling good. Temporarily may improve, your range of motion because again, things feel less tight and tense like we just talked about. But it's a to have a skilled hand working on problem areas. hugely impactful. Versus um, compression wear. It's one of the other things we're gonna talk about. So I forget exactly what the company is called. We were talking about it before, but they have the boots that essentially inflate with air, and it kind of
Yep.
like feels like it steamrolls your leg, like it's pinching blood back up your leg. Um, Big fan of those.
Mhm.
Big fan of those.
Yeah.
I,
I'm
I'm,
trying to think of what they're called. I can't even think of them. But like that, you have to sit while you do it, and
mhm,
they go up with air. I did like those a lot in college. I went to a place. This is funny. I went to a cryo place in college, and I did
yeah.
cryotherapy, and I did this rolling the boot thing, and I would do that the day before a game. And I don't know if it was actually helping me or not, but I always felt like fresher going into the Saturday game when I did that on Friday. Um, Now, if it worked or not, I don't know. I would say for me as like a punter, I loved it because I was on my feet a lot, like kicking like more than I should have been during the week. So the volume, like Friday was the only day that like I cut my volume down like a ton, and I would only kick like 10 or 20 balls, and then I would go do this, and it helped a lot during the season. But I would say I don't know. It was one of those. It's expensive too, so there's that cost of it. But
Yeah, there's a big barrier to entry with that.
yeah,
Absolutely. Um, what other modalities? Dry needling.
dry needling,
Um,
cupping. A lot of people do cupping too. It makes me nervous with all the kids. Like I always have college kids and high school kids. Like, hey, I bought this cupping thing from Amazon. What do you think about it? I'm like, I've got no thoughts for you. Like, I don't want to give you any like professional opinions on this because you're going to say that I gave you this idea, and you know what I mean. Like, because if you hurt
100%.
yourself, and there's ways of doing it like dry cupping and non-dry cupping where it's like blood, like you pull the blood out or whatever, and like they'll do that, and they've got these huge fucking bruises everywhere, and um, I just have heard like horror stories. It just makes me a little nervous, because people get their whole like people get licensed in that, you know, and it's the whole profession in itself. So I don't know.
No, it's think like a lawyer. Think like a lawyer. I would say the same as you in terms of how do I feel about using cupping. We've talked about a lot of modalities, but specifically cupping. Fan of it. If you think it works, it's the only one of the only modalities that I can think of that's like not compression, right? If you
Yeah,
think about soft
that's
tissue
a good
work, you're
point.
digging in. If you think about manual therapy, digging in. If you think about um, the air compressor boots that we were talking about again, it's squeezing. It's the only like
Yeah.
non-compressive recovery modality that I can think of. I mean, aside from like an inversion table, where you hook your feet in and you lean back. But anywho, that's a whole other
That's an
thing.
old school, man. I don't even know
Yeah.
if do they even sell those things anymore.
Oh, they do.
I'm sure they
They do.
do. Somebody's making money from that.
But no, to your point, if you're going to go down that road, you should do it with someone that is experienced in that realm, like
Yeah.
a fitness professional that's trained in that. Like I would never have a client lay on a table while I do manual therapy on them. I'm not a PT. That's not within my scope of practice. I'm not a massage therapist. I'm certainly not going to stick needles in you. I'm not going to do cupping on you. That is not within my scope of practice. I'll fully own that.
Yeah.
So yeah, people get them and it's like I don't know. It's interesting to get a set of cups and just think I'm going to pick this up. This is my new hobby.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, what? What? Like that's I don't know.
It made me nervous because some guys would do it wrong, and they would
I
come in
bet.
the next day and like they are like purple,
Yeah.
like because it pulled so bad that like, and they didn't know that you're not supposed to like crank it that much or whatever, and like I'm like guys, it should not look like that. Like I don't know that much about it, but like your fucking back is purple, dude. Like this is not a. And maybe it is, I don't know, right? But like to me, that just makes me nervous that like these kids are seeing this on Instagram or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, this guy did this on this short, so I should be able to do this." And
Well,
then
I
they
think
ask for my opinion, and I'm like, "Dude, I have zero idea of what this is." Like,
it's becoming a badge of honor, right? You see these elite athletes that again have access to all of these resources, all these different ways to recover, and so they get cupped by a professional, and
Yeah.
you see them when they go out to perform. They have the spots, and it's like, I want to do what the best of the best are doing. And it's like, yeah, but and we've said it before in tons of different ways. The best of the best are that way because they embrace the monotony that is training. They show up every day and do the little things that no one sees to get on the biggest stage of all after decades of hard work and discipline. And then they have access to people that are qualified to use those recovery modalities. Don't just go out and get a set of cups and think, I'm gonna be like that pro guy. Like that's you're missing you're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies at that point. You're missing
Mm.
so many things, you know?
Say that
Um,
again, because that's man, like that's tripping over
tripping over
tripping
dollars
over
to pick up
dollars.
pennies.
That is
I
recovery to me, like to a T. Like
Yeah.
that's like the for me the whole scope of recovery is like you're trying so hard to do all these little things, but then you're not looking at like the big picture of the entire scenery of like what's going on in your body and your training and everything else. I think that's such an important part. And that's I need to write a note of that, like maybe make that into a short for myself, because like that's the biggest thing when I have all these questions. I'm like I should just be harping on that more and coaching that, and then the other stuff like eventually will make its way to the forefront. But starting with the big picture and then going smaller, I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the last episode that I said it. It's just a matter of as coaches kind of going through um it's just a matter of going through that checklist of are we tending to this, tending to that, tending to the other thing. And the whole point of this podcast is we're just kind of talking about our checklists. One of them, big one, is recovery. And I think we hit on a lot of modalities. Obviously the kind of one that has the lowest barrier to entry, sleep. I can't tell you how important sleep is. You know this, but to the people listening that are like, I want to be there, I want to achieve this, that, and the other thing. So I get my workouts and I'm ready to go. I wrote up what I think is the best program, and I'm set. And here I go. And my nutrition is dialed in. Here I go. And we get 3 weeks in, and they're like, I'm not seeing progress. I'm really sore. I'm really aching. It's like, well, let me see your plan. And it's like, the plan's written fine. It's like, okay, so how are we recovering? What are we doing to recover? And it's like, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
sleep well. And it's like, so we're not recovering. So many beneficial things happen when you sleep. It is the way the body grows, and it's free. It's free. It's better than any
Yeah.
supplement out there. You just lay down. You have good sleep hygiene first so that you can get good sleep. You sleep as best you can for, I don't want to say as long as you can, but as long as you need. And what do you know? Things start to fall in line.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's something that gets oversimplified, or not simplified, over analyzed maybe a little bit. Like people sometimes read too much into it and then don't do anything. And I think that like you see all these things on social media and all these different things, and it's always just that like you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, like sleep hygiene, like here's 10 things that you need to do for your sleep hygiene. And then it's like, okay, it's like way too much analyzing. And most of the time it's just like, you need to just take a little more time, maybe even start with 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, to just like think about what you do. If you have any routines when you go to bed, like do you like have to do certain things? Are you watching TV the second that you're watching TV to right till you go to bed? Those kind of things. It's like one thing at a time. But again, sleep is the most important in my opinion, and it's free. And I love that you said that, because everybody needs sleep, and there's not somebody that nobody, we haven't gotten there yet. And if we did, man, I would love to be on the forefront of that. Like, hey, we're doing this new study and we're going to inject this weird shit in you, and you only have to sleep like 4 hours a day. Like, yeah, let's sign me up. Let's figure it out.
Yeah,
Or man, there's a Rick and Morty episode. I love Rick and Morty, by the way. Like, I haven't seen it in a
great
while, but
show.
there's an episode where they have like sleep people basically, and then when they're asleep, they're like their body and mind are like doing things like sleepwalking people. So like these guys are like Rick and Morty are like working out when they're asleep, and they wake up and they're all like shredded and have abs and stuff. And it was just funny. I was like, man, how crazy would our lives be if we could do things when we were asleep, or we just didn't have to sleep as much, and our
Yeah.
bodies could just like recover the same way. I know it doesn't work like that, but man, that'd be pretty freaking cool.
In the movie Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Doctor Strange, does that. While his body is sleeping, he'll like astral project and he'll be like reading in his sleep, trying to gain knowledge and grow his skill set. And it's like
How crazy.
you and I have said it. You and I have said it on an episode before, though. That's I mean, like the best of the best, whether it be elite athletes or elite businessmen and businesswomen, are there because they leverage their time,
Yeah.
right? So sleep, if you shortcut, sleep is the one thing you cannot shortcut right now
Yeah.
that we know of. And you and I both know a lot of people and clients that want a list of the top 5 supplements and vitamins that they can take when it's like you're ignoring the easiest one to get, and that is just improving your sleep. It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to. My life's too busy. I can't sleep all that time. What do I need? Magnesium, zinc, vitamin A, just a bunch of vitamin B. What do I need? And it's like you're spending all this money and all this time in researching these vitamins. Get some sleep. Shut it down. Shut it down,
And
and
the
you'll be
time
so
that
much
you
better for it.
spent researching, you could have been
Yeah,
sleeping.
truly, no, but truly, in the hour that you
Yes.
spent doom scrolling vitamins and supplements
Oh
and all
man.
this, you could have been getting an extra hour of sleep so you didn't wake up, dragging your feet, and potentially missing your morning workout. It's like,
Yeah.
get a routine, nail the routine, nail it until it is just second nature to you. Get it
Yes.
down, be a pro at it, and then like if you can't master the fundamentals, don't even worry about all the extra stuff. Get the simple stuff right. That's sleep. That's sleep. And that is what I have to say on recovery.
Absolutely. Good way to break that one. Sleep, I think, was a good way to wrap that. And I wish, like, we all struggle with those things. I don't think we're not coming from our soapbox saying that, like, we don't struggle with these things because, like, obviously you have a kid that's, keeping you up at night. And I work, and every day my old job at Ohio Northern, I woke up at 3 a.m. every day. And this job is a little bit better. I usually wake up at like 4:30 or 5 every day. So, it's one of those things. You just got to wake up and do it sometimes and find the time to take a nap or find the time to do those things. So
Simple, not easy.
there you go. Well, cool. This was a great one. For anyone else, like I'm happy that if you got here, please, I appreciate all your viewership and listening and all that stuff. But man, even just having the conversation with you for me to like bounce these ideas off of and for my own education and my own, development, I love it. So
That's what it's about, man. It's about collaborating, sharing, learning from your experiences. It's a good time, man. I enjoy this.
yeah.
All
Well,
right, you're gonna
cool.
have to. I
Follow
can't. I
along.
gotta see the hands. I gotta see the hands when
Okay,
you take
there
us
we go.
out.
Hands this time. 3, 2, 1. Was that it?
That's it.
Okay, cool. All right. See you guys later.